Welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at events in Pygame and the difference between standard events and custom events. To start with, make sure you have the template code for this project, which is linked in the video. This template code is very basic. All we have is a basic of the imports. We have some colors defined here. I've got a good selection of colors and a color list with all the different colors in as well. So we've got the list of the colours and a default colour for selected, red. You'll see why in a second. We've also got a simple box that's been defined, a rectangle box with a start position, and then our basics of Pygame, and very simply drawing that box onto the screen with a single colour, and it looks something like that. This is all you're being given to start with. Okay, colours provided in a list, and the single rectangle, and we're going to do some things to this rectangle with events today. Now you've actually been using events already in a way, very basic way. In your main loop we've already got here for events in pygame.event.get. Basically that gets all the events possible in Pygame, it listens for them and detects any events that have taken place. From then on, very simply, we've got our for loop here, which we can use to check different events that have been detected. And the basic one we've got here, we've had from the beginning, is if event.type equals pygame.quit, done equals true. So if the escape key is essentially pressed, or the exit button is pressed, it stops the done loop. So that's just detecting the cross and corner being clicked when you run Pygame. For example, look. Click, it detected the event and it stopped the loop. So we've already got a loop here for detecting basic events, and there are lots of different events we can do in Pygame. Okay, to start with, we're going to just start with detecting some key press events. Now, key press events can be either key being pressed down on the keyboard or the key being released, being let up. So we do these in different ways. To start with, I'm going to say if event.type equals pygame.key down. This is any key that's being pressed down on the keyboard, pressing the key down. From then on, we can detect the different keys. And we're going to start with event.key equals pygame.k left. So that's going to detect the left arrow key. Every key on the keyboard can be detected essentially. So I'm going to say if the left arrow key has been pressed down, key down, we're then going to do something. Simply, I'm just going to print a message saying left key pressed. Okay? And we can do the same thing for any other key. So I'm going to go if event.key equals pygame.k right. Let's do the right arrow. Right key pressed. Now, very simply, if I run my program, if I run it, and I press the left and the right arrow keys on the keyboard, you'll see in my console at the bottom here, left key pressed, right key pressed. And I can just keep pressing them. Every time I press it, it detects the event and outputs. That could be used to do something on screen or output text on the screen or whatever, okay? But it's detecting the event now. So that's for the key being pressed down. However, you might be playing a game, you might want to also detect when the key is being released to stop a character moving, for example. So as key down, we've also got event.type equals pygame.key up. That doesn't mean key is in the up key, it means key released up in the air. Okay, so stop pressing it basically. And we could do the same thing again. If event.key equals pygame.k left. So if I release the left key, I'm going to say left key released, just to show it works. And then the same thing for the right one. Pygame.k right. Right key released. So now we should be able to detect the left and the right keys being pressed down and then released. So press down, I'm holding the key down, and as soon as I release it, key released. Holding the key down, released, there, and the same for right. So we can detect when the key is being pressed down and when it's being released, which can be very helpful in your game for controlling characters or racing a car or whatever it is you do. Now be aware there are lots of different key events, obviously. On the website I've provided, you can just simply Google this. You've got all the names of all the different keys. K tab, K backspace, K return, all the basic ones, keyboard presses here, delete key, minus, plus, right, left, up, down, etc. Okay, so every basic keyboard has got one. And the link to that little guide there is at the very top of the document if you want to find it. But just simply Googling Pygame key events will tell you that. Okay, so now we know how to use keyboard press events. We are now going to see if we can do something with it. We're going to use our keyboard left and right arrows to move the box that we've got on screen. When we press it, we're going to get the box to move, similar to you've done before. Well, to do that, remember we've already got the box being drawn here, and we've got the box being set up here with an X pos and a Y pos, an X position and a Y position. And it starts at these coordinates here. Well, we can use the arrow keys to add and subtract to this to move it on the screen. So very simply, I'm going to add a new variable just outside of my loop here. I'm going to call it move X. And I'm going to set it to 0 to start with. Move X. So that is a variable we're going to use to add to our position of the box, basically. So using this move X variable, when we press the left key, we are going to set that move X variable to -5, which is going to move it to the left on the screen. And when we press the right arrow key, we're going to set it to +5, or just 5. However, when we release the key, when we're not pressing a key, we want to stop it moving. So we're going to set move X to 0 again, and the same for when we release the right key. So basically, if we press key down, it's going to set it to move left or right. And if we press key up, it's then going to stop the movement. Now, at the moment, that's not actually going to do anything because we haven't used it yet. So if we go back to our box at the top here, this is where the box is being set up, and it's being set by the X and Y position. But the problem at the moment is our box is being drawn outside of the loop, so we can't update it. It's literally being set up once. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this line here, cut it, and I'm going to move it and put it inside our loop so we can dynamically control it. And I'm going to put it just under here where it says draw box. So I'm now setting up the box within the loop so I can change it. And now we're going to use our new variable here for the X pos plus move X. So basically, depending on what arrow key is being pressed, it's going to add this to the X position to move it left or right. So now if we run our game, you'll notice if I press the key, the box is moving a bit, but it's not keep moving. So what's actually happening is we're setting the X position to -5 and +5 rather than adding to it. So the final thing we have to do in here is just before I've set this, I'm going to say X pos plus equals move X. So I'm going to add this to the X position. I'm going to add it to it rather than actually doing it the other way. So now I can actually take this one off, look, and we're adding the move X to the X pos rather than just adding it on top there, okay? Now if I run it now, I can scroll left and right like this. Nice and easy, okay? So we're using a key press event to change the X position of our shape. Nice and easy. Okay, So we know how to use standard events now to do things like change variables, output stuff on the screen, and change things within our game. So what we're going to do is we're going to go just before the loop here, just before the main loop, and I'm going to make some custom events. These are user events that they can program to do things, okay? First thing we're going to do is we're going to make a custom event to change the color of our box. So at the moment it stays the same. We're going to use a timer so it keeps changing color when the event happens. So in custom events here, I'm going to make an event called change color equals pygame dot user event +1. Now this +1 is just the first event. You can have +2, +3, +4, many different user events, okay? Lots of different user events, but this is our first one. And there are two ways of creating user events. The first way is by using a timer. So what I'm going to do here, pygame.time.set_timer. I'll just type it in and then explain. Change color, and then 1000. No, let's do 2000. Okay. So basically, what that's saying is I'm setting a timer for this current event. And it's when it triggers this timer, it's going to run this event, and it's going to run it every 2000 milliseconds or 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, this change color event is going to trigger in Pygame. Okay, every 2 seconds. However, we also need something then to detect that event. So down here in our loop, where we've done all the other events, we've got our key down, key up events. We're now going to listen out for that custom event. So inside our event, I'm going to go if event.type equals change color, because that's what we call the event. Just to start with, I'm just going to print a message that says tick. Okay. Now what you'll notice, hopefully, in the bottom corner, every 2 seconds, tick, 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 tick. So it's counting up every time that event is running, it's detecting it and outputting the message tick. Now that's a bit boring, so let's do something with it. So very simply, remember we've already got a box here with a color variable being passed in. Well, let's change that color variable when this event happens. So color equals random.choice color list. So I'm going to pick a random choice from our color list and set it to the new color. Now this random choice only works because at the very top I've imported the random library, okay? So I'm going to pick a random color every 2 seconds when this color change event happens. Let's run this. There we go. When it ticks, it picks a new random color from the list and updates the color on the screen. So every 2 seconds. Now that's quite slow at the moment, every 2 seconds. So the good thing is, if I wanted it to happen faster, I can go up here and instead of 2000, I could change that to 1000, or every half a second, for example, 500. Now we should have a bit more of a disco going on, okay? So every half a second, the event is being triggered, updating the color and outputting it on the screen. Okay, so we've got a custom event now we can use to run things every half a second. Now, in the game, you could have that for a bullet delay, or you could have it for enemy movement, or whatever you need to run within the game every second, or even a counter on the screen that counts up time, for example, every second increments. Okay, as well as having timer-based events where we set the timer here, we can also have events that are triggered when something else occurs in the game. For example, when you get hit, or when you press a button, for example. Okay, so you can have custom events for this. So we're going to do a custom event that when you collide with the box, when you put your mouse over the box, it's going to run a custom event. In this case, we're going to get to move the box. So we're going to go back to our custom events here, and we're going to make a new custom event. We're going to call this one on box. So when the mouse is on top of the box, and we're going to set it to pygame.userEvent, and this time it's going to be 2, because remember we can have as many different ones of these as we want. Except this time we're not going to set a timer. We're just going to leave it as this. Now in our game, down here, after we've drawn our box here, after we've drawn it, we are going to detect to see if the user, their mouse, is colliding on top of the box. So I'm going to say if box.collide point, if there's a point of collision between the box and pygame.mouse.getPos. So basically, has the user's mouse collided with the box? Is it in the same proximity, same area? And if that's true, we are going to run our custom event. Pygame.event.post, pygame.event.event on box. So basically this is saying if that happens, post, send out the event on box. So it's going to broadcast it within the game. However, at the moment, nothing's listening. It's not looking for that event. So just like we did the detecting the color change event, we're going to do the same thing with our new onBox event. So if event.type equals onBox, if it detects that event being broadcast, let's just print out a message onBox to check and see if it detects it. Event.type equals onBox, print onBox. Now in our game, when I put my mouse over it, oh look, onBox, tick, 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 onBox. So it's detecting when there's a collision between the mouse and the box, and it's running that event. However, that's boring at the moment. We don't want to print text, just print text. So the final thing we'll do to make this a bit more gamified, xpos equals random.rand integer between 100 and 600. So remember, xpos is the position of our box here, and it's set outside the loop, but we can change it within our loop. So I'm saying when the box collides with the mouse, I'm going to randomize the position of the box, and I'm going to do the same for the ypos. Random.rand int, again between 1 and 400. Why 600 and 400? Remember, the size of the window I've set here is 640 by 480, so we want to keep it within the window. If I do it too close to the edge, it might be half off the screen, so these are my area I'm setting it to. Now very simply, if we run it now, if the mouse collides with it, doink, it's jumped to a random position. Doink, jumped to a random position. And it will keep doing that every time the event is triggered for the collision with the mouse on box. So now we've got custom events, well, we've got standard events to move with the arrow key. We've got custom events to tick and change the color, and we've got a custom events that can be called to move or do an action within our game, such as that. So that's our basic use of basic events and custom events covered. For today's extension, can you use the events and text to create a timer that counts down in the game? It counts down using a timer set to a second, and it decrements a second variable and outputs it onto the screen as a message. And for a final bonus challenge, when it gets to 0, can you get it to close the game window? So it self-destructs in 60 seconds, essentially. Okay? So can you create an in-game timer using custom events, counting down with a variable, and close the game when done? Good luck. See you in lesson.